Good Evening Ghana is brought to you by Castlegate Company Limited.
The first is the office, the establishment of the office of the special prosecutor. As though there's gone through a lot of controversy. But my hope and expectation is that the establishment of this office is going to be an important step in our collective determination to root out corruption.
So that's one important matter that's happening this week. So much pressure on Mr. Martin Amidu. Today, the Supreme Court had a word about the matter against him. We'll tell you what the Supreme Court said today. It adjourned the matter for further hearing. But in that matter, you know that Mr. Dominic Ayine, who is former Deputy Attorney General, is urging the court to agree with him that Martin Amidu is too old actually to perform the task. However, there's been pressure on him all over around the country and on social media. And so he has also been under pressure to say what he's doing. I'm sure you've heard a bit of that. We'll get back to the Martin Amidu story and tell you why he's under so much pressure and also tell you what actually happened at the court. But tonight, our big interview is with this man.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, in the petition of Madame Ya Ajay and the petition of Mr. Kwabena Ajay Ejapon, I would like to invite as a witness His Excellency the former President, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John.
Okay, so that's our big interview, and we are talking to the articulate Kenneth, and we are talking to him about the National Identification Authority and what he is doing out there to get all Ghanaians. And Ghanaians here is a very technical definition. Tonight he'll tell us who Ghanaians are in that respect and within that context. And Kenneth will also tell us what they are doing at the NIA and who a Ghanaian is not, or who is not a Ghanaian, and how will they identify that. We know that he is causing some arrest to be done against some of the staff there because they have been doing illegal registration. We'll understand all of these terms and ask him how the process is going to end. We have a whole list of questions for him, but we believe that you also do have some questions for him. So we'll open the phone lines at the appropriate time so that you can also participate in the conversation. So that's the big one, Ken Ateffuah. Before then, though, we'll talk a bit about Martin Amidu. So we'll take a short break now so that you can settle in, tell your friends to tell his friend that the big conversation is with Ken Ateffuah tonight. But we have a very small word on what's happening with Martin Amidu when we come back.
Living among your peers in a serene gated community with tarred roads, drains, electricity, piped water supply and 24-hour security can be so relieving. That is the experience you will enjoy when you reserve the Castle Residency plots located near Prampram Beach and Katamanso near Adenta Barrier. Just pay up to 60% deposit and start construction to start enjoying Prampram Beach and Airport City life. You can start with any deposit. We give you a whopping 10% discount if you make an outright payment. The Castle Residency plots are managed by Castlegate Estate Ghana Limited. Locate our offices at Katamanso Estate site off the Adenta Barrier Dodua Road or Prampram Beach Road next to Oasis International School, or contact us on 0545 559928, our website on www.castlegateestate.com.gh, or email us at info@castlegateestate.com.gh. The Castle Residency Plots. We make home ownership easier.
So at the beginning of the administration, not quite at the beginning, but sometime in 2008, President Ateffuah announced that he was going to have a special prosecutor. On that day, the announcement was greeted quite nicely among many Ghanaians and many international people abroad. Let's just take you back and remind you how the announcement occurred. This morning in court, the Supreme Court was able to settle on the issues to determine sometime after the appointment and before Martin Amidu could appear before Parliament's Appointment Committee, Dominic Anyene, who is a member of Parliament and also the former Attorney General, former Deputy Attorney General, took out a writ at the Supreme Court to challenge Martin Amidu on the basis that, as far as his age was concerned, he was disqualified from serving in public office. The matter is still being heard. If the matter is heard in favor of Dominic Anyene, there will be no Martin Amidu at the special prosecutor's desk. The government would have to announce another special prosecutor. If the matter is heard in favor of Martin Amidu and the Attorney General, both of whom have been sued by Dominic Anyene, then, of course, he will continue. Could that be the reason why he has not begun any active prosecutions yet? We don't know. We'll just tell you what's happening in the court case. But those of you who don't quite remember how Martin Amidu was appointed, this is how it happened.
This is the office, the establishment of the office of the special prosecutor. As though there's gone through a lot of controversy. But my hope and expectation is that the establishment of this office is going to be an important step in our collective determination to root out corruption. The response of the new patriotic party to this demand was inter alia to pledge in its manifesto for the 2016 general elections the establishment of the Office of Special Prosecutor, an independent, non-partisan body with the relevant professional capability to lead the fight and hold public officials, past and present, accountable for their stewardship of public finances. The enactment of the Office of Special Prosecutor Act, Act 663/2018, by an MPP-dominated parliament, is the first stage in the fulfillment of that pledge. Satisfied of the constitutionality and propriety of the legislation, I assented to it on the 2nd of January 2018. The Act, pursuant to Section 13(3), provides for the nomination by the Attorney General of a person fit for appointment by the President of the Republic, subject to approval by Parliament by an absolute majority of its members to perform the functions of the office. The special prosecutor, once confirmed by Parliament, will carry an extraordinary responsibility, independently and impartially, to fight corruption. The special prosecutor, as the Act states in its preamble, and I quote, shall have full authority and control over the investigation, initiation, and conduct of proceedings of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses involving public officers and politically exposed persons in the performance of their functions, as well as persons in the private sector involved in the commission of alleged or suspected corruption and corruption-related offenses, unquote. The remit of the office, as you can see, is broad and challenging. The Attorney General is by letter dated Thursday, 11th January 2018 of today's date, addressed to me, exercised her power of nomination and submitted to me for my acceptance the name of the proposed special prosecutor. I've accepted the Attorney General's nomination and will in turn submit for Parliament's approval when it reconvenes on the 23rd of January 2018 for its first meeting of this new year, the name of Martin Amidu Burns Kaiser Amidu to be the first special prosecutor under the law.
So this was in early 2018 when President Akufo-Addo outlawed Martin Amidu Burns Kaiser. That's a name that you shouldn't forget, Burns Kaiser Amidu. Not long after that, I should say, and soon Amidu could set and get ready for his hearings at Parliament Appointment Committee. According to the act that established the prosecutor's office, he's supposed to appear before Parliament's Appointments Committee as an ordinary minister appointed under Article 78 or 79 of the Constitution to be vetted by the Parliament and then to be endorsed by them before he is fully in office. Before that could happen, this man, appearing on your screens very soon, Dominic Ayeni. Dominic Ayeni is a former lecturer of law at the Faculty of Law. He is now a member of Parliament and also became Deputy Attorney General under President John Dramani Mahama. He took out a writ and sued. He sued first the Attorney General and also sued Martin Amidu himself in his personal capacity, but he sued the Attorney General as suing the government. And he's asking a question. He's saying that given that Martin Amidu is over age 60 years old, should he be able to take up public office when the retiring age for public office holders is age 60? That Martin Amidu's appointment is within the context of the public service. He's not appointed as a minister under Article 78 of 79, which will be a pure political appointment and therefore any age will do. So Martin Amidu should be stripped of his appointment. He sued the Attorney General as the first defendant and he sued Martin Amidu as the second defendant. Guess who his lawyers were? His lawyers were his former boss, Marietta Brew-Upon, who is a former Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana, of course. You'll see a photograph in a bit. That's Marietta in your shot over there. Marietta is one of the lawyers representing Dominic Ayeni and urging upon the court the advocacy of Mr. Ayeni. And Marietta's partner at the bar in this matter is Mr. Tony Letha, of course, quite well known from the election petition. Tony Letha was the representative of President Mahama during that hearing. That's Tony Letha on your shot. Representing the government against two of these former Attorney General and former President Mahama councillors, Godfrey Dame. Godfrey Dame is the Deputy Attorney General under this current republic, and he is representing the government. I'll tell you now in a bit what happened in courts today and what will happen in courts in the future in terms of what issues the courts have settled down to determine as the main issues to be resolved in resolving this matter. I'll tell you some of the arguments that have been made by Mr. Dame in furtherance of his position that Martin Amidu is wholly and truly qualified to be the attorney, to be the special prosecutor. Sorry, I should have written these rules of these matters that have been agreed to be settled upon so that you may see them, but we came to a studio almost at press time, and so I couldn't write them down. However, I read them to you slowly so that perhaps you can follow. The matters that have been settled according to the court, the matters put down to be settled by the lawyers according to the court, upon which both sides have agreed, is as follows. Number one is whether or not the second defendant, being Martin Amidu, is a proper party to the suit. Well, I believe that the Deputy Attorney General, Godfrey Dame, is arguing that in terms of parties, what the courts do in terms of settling the issues to be discussed is first to settle the parties. And they may be arguing that Mr. Martin Amidu ought not to be sued in this matter because he didn't appoint himself. I'm just guessing. But that's the first issue that's been put down by the court and the lawyers for settlement. That's whether or not the second defendant, Martin Amidu, is a proper party before the court. The second one is interesting. Whether or not the Constitution prescribes one compulsory retirement age of 60 years old. Now, that's an interesting matter. That is where I believe the case will turn. However the court settles this matter will actually turn the judgment in favor of one party or the other. The court have been invited to answer the question whether or not the Constitution prescribes one compulsory retirement age of 60. So if the court were to say that the Constitution does not prescribe one compulsory retirement age of 60, it definitely weakens the case of Dominic Ayine. If the court were to say that the Constitution actually prescribes one retirement age of 60 years, that will be the end of the case of the government, and Dominic Ayine would have actually been vindicated. But there are other issues to be settled, two more issues. The next one is whether or not Parliament, that's the Legislative Assembly, has residual legislative powers to prescribe for the appointment of a specific public officer in different contexts other than established by the age 60 criteria. That's an interesting one also to settle. That also, in settling that matter, it will also significantly turn the case one way or the other. This is whether or not Parliament has residual legislative powers to prescribe for the appointment of a specific public officer outside the context of the 60-year criteria. So as you can see, the first issue is whether Martin Amidu should be sued. Second issue is whether age 60 is the only retirement age or age 60 is the compulsory retirement age for all public servants under the 1992 Constitution. Third one is whether or not Parliament has residual legislative powers to prescribe for the appointment of other people who may be outside the context of age 60. The third one is whether 13(1) and 16(2) of the Special Prosecutors Act are inconsistent with Article 1951 of the Constitution. 1951 being the prescribed age, 1951 being the prescription of age under the Constitution. Okay, so let me go now and read to you in terms of the arguments being made by Mr. Godfrey Dame, why he's saying that Martin Amidu's appointment should be upheld by the court. In paragraph 42, sorry, let me be able to read it clearly. In paragraph 42 of what he told the court, Mr. Dame says that, and sorry, I should have put this up. Maybe we'll put them on our Facebook page so that you can all read it in your own time. It will be better, wouldn't it? Let's do our best and see whether we can communicate to you so appropriately that you cannot forget. It says, respectfully, we find the submissions of the plaintiff, that's Dominic Ayine, and the amended statement contradictory of his own case. Mr. Dame says that he, Dominic Ayine, is now admitting that it is possible for quote-unquote older people to serve the nation in a capacity which quote-unquote do not require holding an office in the public service and also outside the public service. This, Mr. Dame says, is the whole point of the submission by the Attorney General's office. He says a person of any age may be employed to hold a public office without necessarily holding that public office in the public service. Now, this is interesting. Mr. Dame, Godfrey Dame, the Deputy Attorney General, is urging upon the Supreme Court to recognize that a person of any age, I guess he means above the age of 18. I'm just guessing, but I think that's what he means. He says a person of any age doesn't mean a person of age 5 or a person of age 6 or a person of age 2 and 11. I guess he means a person of an adult age. So the word person should be construed to mean an adult person. So a person of any age may be employed to hold a public office without necessarily holding that office in the public service. A public office holder does not necessarily have to be a public servant. So if you're a public servant and you're holding public office, you are deemed to be retired at the age of 60. Mr. Martin Amidu is older than 60. Is there a way in which a person of any age may be employed to hold a public office without necessarily holding that public office in the public service? Public office, public service. So he's saying that you can hold a public office it need not be within the context and the criteria of the public service. That's in 42 of his arguments. He goes on in 48 of his argument to say that, if you can put up Godfrey Dame's photograph, I'm reading his submissions. He goes on to say that it is submitted that it is because of the different modes of appointment of public officers under the laws of Ghana that the Constitution does not concern itself to define how appointments of a person to hold public office generally may be made. He says further that buttressing the contention that Chapter 14 should be construed as a term of art and understood to be regulating the appointment of a specific category of public officers, that is, public servants, strictly so-called, and not all public officers. He's saying something quite interesting here as well. He's urging upon the court that it is because of the different modes of public appointment officers under the laws of Ghana that the Constitution itself, that's what he's saying, I'm paraphrasing, recognizes different modes of appointing public officers under the Constitution of Ghana, and therefore the Constitution does not define how appointment of a person to hold public office generally may be made. He's suggesting that the Constitution does not say that appointment to public office must be within the context of the public service, that the Constitution recognizes that there could be appointment to public service, to public office holding outside the context of public service. The public service is what limits people to age 60. He's urging strongly on the court that this should be looked at again. Finally, he says in 650 of his pleadings, it'll sound very interesting. I think that we'll publish them for people to see. So long as there are matters within the court, we believe that they are public documents. Article 286, however, is different from the formulation of etc. This is a bit too legalistic in 50, so I don't need to go there. What the Attorney General is saying is that there's public office and there's public service. Within the context of a public service, you have to be 60, but you can also occupy a public office without it not being construed within the context of public service. In that regard, you need not to be 60. Certainly, you have to be above 18, but you can be 72, you can be 100, you can be 150. That's what he's urging upon the court. Let's wait and see what the Supreme Court will say. Just to remind you of this one, the matters that the courts are settling. And when I finish, we'll show you Martin Amidu again. There's something you've seen, but Martin Amidu talking about some BNI people coming to his home. This was one of the heroic acts of Martin Amidu under the NDC administration that brought attention to himself as a citizen vigilante and probably led him to the mind of the Attorney General, who recommended to the President that he ought to be the first special prosecutor. You've seen this video before, but it's quite intriguing, so we'll show it to you again once I finish. And then will come the big man in the studio, Kenneth Ateffuah, will join us for a conversation about the national ID card. This is Good Evening Ghana, is live, and enjoy it with us. So the court is settling, the court in the case of Martin Amidu, or should I say Dominic Ayine versus the Attorney General and Martin Amidu, about Martin Amidu's qualification to be special prosecutor in respect of his age being over 60 years old. The Supreme Court will settle these matters upon the settlement of these four issues. The first one is whether or not the second defendant, who is Martin Amidu, is a proper person before the court. The second one is whether or not the Constitution prescribes only one compulsory retirement age of 60. The third one is whether or not Parliament has residual legislative powers to prescribe for the appointment of a single public office holder. And the third one is that aspects of the Special Prosecutors Act are not inconsistent with aspects of the 1992 Constitution. Here is Martin Amidu.
I met two gentlemen in a saloon car. I said, can I do anything for you? He said, we are from BNI. I said, from BNI? Yes. They come in, so I opened and they came in and searched you. I said, for what? He said, we are under instructions to arrest you, search you and bring you to headquarters. And searched me, said we are under instructions. So they went in, searched my house. My mother, who was sick, and my wife were in the house. They searched, took my computer, took some papers, and told me to accompany them to the DNI. And I told her I'd be happy to see the director because I don't understand why on the 6th of December, when the next day was election, of course it came out later on that they claimed that somebody had told them I was to deliver a lecture on corruption that day. I said no.
The name of Martin Alamisi Burns Kaiser Amidu to be the first special prosecutor under the law.
Okay, so I've been updated by my producers on the issues before the court, and I have to say that there's been a first round defeat for Dominic Ayeni because the first issue about whether or not Martin Amidu is a proper party before the court has already been settled by the Supreme Court and has been settled in favor of the Deputy Attorney General Godfrey Dami, who has successfully argued before the court that upon a suit against the Attorney General, it was unnecessary and superfluous for Martin Amidu also to be sued. And so the court has accepted that argument. That leaves the court 3 matters to determine. And sorry, I had to correct this later than expected. So whether or not the second defendant is a party to the suit has already been dealt with, and the court agrees with the Attorney General that Martin Amidu ought not to be a party before the suit. So Martin Amidu Benz Kaiser is free to continue his work and to chase people who have stolen public money without attending court. The other 3 matters still remain outstanding, and settlement of those matters will bring a finality, hopefully, to the appointment of this man on the screen, Martin Benz Kaiser Alamisi Amidu, former Deputy Attorney General, former Attorney General, former Minister for Interior, former citizen vigilante, distinguished member of the Ghana Bar Association. It will bring a finality to his appointment. Okay, so we've dealt with the first issue. We promised that we'll finish that by 9:30, and we have. It's 27 minutes past 9 o'clock on the top of the hour. This is Good Evening Ghana. And you're live over here on Metro TV. You're also live on Facebook. You're live online, and you're live on YouTube as well. Kenneth Ateffuah joins us next after the break. But for those who are quite young, you have to understand who Kenneth Ateffuah is. He is the very articulate lawyer who came to Ghana as the Commission for Human Rights in British Columbia in Canada. Kenneth Ateffuah established himself as a huge human rights campaigner when he joined the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Shraj, what is it? Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, yes. Commission for Human, sorry about that. Sometimes these things happen, you see. The Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Shraj. Kenneth Ateffuah joined as his executive secretary. I believe he was the first executive secretary, and he was very articulate. He changed the whole profile of the commission, and major things happened when he was there and when Commissioner Short was the commissioner. Then I think after Commissioner Short, Mr. Ateffuah held on for a bit. Now he's professor. He set up the law school, the Faculty of Law at the Central University, and he also did some work at GIMPA. But one of his high points of his career is this one I'm going to show you. When the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was set up. Now, at the time that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was set up in Ghana, it was a global matter because South Africa had just done their Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which was the biggest story apart from the release of Nelson Mandela and the ascension to the South African presidency of the same Nelson Mandela. Ghana was the next country within the global space to have this commission for Truth Commission set up. I can't remember how we called it, but there's a Truth Commission. It was a commission that was supposed to bring our history together and reconcile our people and all that. Graciously, Kenneth Ateffuah appeared on this program a few times back in the day, 20 years ago, many years ago, or something like that. You know, he appeared on this program when he was executive secretary. And that's when the whole nation got to get a feel of Mr. Kenneth Ateffuah. He did a distinguished job with Justice Adom-Otchere, who is passed on to eternal glory, and all the commissions at the time. This was one of the highest points of Kenneth Ateffuah's career as a human rights campaigner.
Mr. Chairman, in the petition of Madame Ya Ajay and the petition of Mr. Agyeman, I would like to invite as a witness His Excellency the former President, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings.
Please, members of the public, I have to warn you from the very onset. If you have any demonstrations, we'll clear the entire gallery and proceed without your presence. So if you want to remain here while our proceedings take place, you have to comport yourself. This is not a theater or a dance hall. Yes. So if you continue to exhibit this kind of behavior, I'll get the security men to clear the entire hall, leaving only the press with us, and then we'll proceed. So you are warned. Yes. Please swear the witness.
Mr. Chairman, before then, His Excellency, the former president, is represented by a legal team led by Dr. Benjamin Kumbo. And I omitted to indicate that the petition of Madam Yaa-Adjei is in respect of the death of Andrews Bamfo Sarkodie Ado. Probably counsel can announce themselves for the record.
Yes, Dr. Kumbo, let's hear you.
I appear for the witness. I am Kumbo.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, in the petition of Madam Yaa-Adjei and the petition of Mr. Agyeman, I would like to invite as a witness His Excellency, the former president, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlins.
Living among your peers in a serene gated community with tarred roads, drains, electricity, piped water supply and 24-hour security can be so relieving. That is the experience you will enjoy when you reserve the Castle Residency plots located near Prampram Beach and Katamanso near Adenta-Barrier. Just pay up to 60% deposit and start construction to start enjoying Prampram Beach and Airport City life. You can start with any deposit. We give you a whopping 10% discount if you make an outright payment. The Castle Residency plots are managed by Castlegate Estate Ghana Limited. Locate our offices at Katamanso Estate site off the Adenta-Barrier Dodua Road or Prampram Beach Road next to Oasis International School, or contact us on 0545 559928, our website on www.castlegateestate.com.gh, or email us at info@castlegateestate.com.gh. The Castle Residency Plots. We make home ownership easier.
Mr. Chairman, in the petition of Madam Yaa-Adjei and the petition of Mr. Agyeman, I would like to invite as a witness His Excellency, the former president, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlins.
Please, members of the public, I have to warn you from the very onset. If you have any demonstrations, we'll clear the entire gallery and proceed without your presence. So if you want to remain here while our proceedings take place, you have to comport yourself. This is not a theater or a dance hall. Yes. So if you continue to exhibit this kind of behavior, I'll get the security men to clear the entire hall, leaving only the press with us, and then we'll proceed. So you are warned. Yes. Please swear the witness.
Mr. Chairman, before then, His Excellency, the former president, is represented by a legal team led by Dr. Benjamin Kumbo. And I omitted to indicate that the petition of Madam Yaa-Adjei is in respect of the death of Andrews Bamfo Sarkodie Ado. Probably counsel can announce themselves for the record.
Yes, Dr. Kumbo, let's hear you.
I appear for the witness. I am Kumbo.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chairman, in the petition of Madam Yaa-Adjei and the petition of Mr. Agyeman, I would like to invite as a witness His Excellency, the former president, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlins.
Doctor, how was those moments of National Reconciliation Commission? The whole world had this attention on you, very similar to what is happening now, but that was a bit more politically charged than this one.
Yes, because then there were lots of fears and tensions about the outcomes. People were afraid of prosecution. People were afraid of exposure. People were afraid of the, egregious human rights violations that they were alleged to have perpetrated, participated in, or that they had actually participated in, being excavated and aired in the public domain, and reputations being damaged and all of that. The stakes were much higher. People feared that they might lose property or whatever, maybe go to jail. Then, unlike now we have a situation where there was political tension, and I should salute His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama for calming the tempers down, for using a voice of unification when he spoke last week, urging all Ghanaians to go and register, even as he urged the NIA to investigate the allegations of impropriety, registration malpractices that have been leveled against some of our officers. But National Reconciliation Commission, I was in the eye of the storm. National Identification Authority, I am in the eye of the storm. Different storms, different outcomes, but all in the service of God and country.
God first and country next, or country first and God next?
Oh, I think in this particular instance, it's country.
Country first.
It's country first, yes.
Okay, so
but if you serve your country well, you serve your God.
Who is not a Ghanaian? Everyone wanted me to ask you that when we said you're coming.
Very well. A person is not a Ghanaian if he doesn't qualify for Ghanaian citizenship or for Ghanaianness under 4 criteria. One.
And in this criteria, are you gleaning it from the Constitution?
Yes, from the law.
Okay, which article in the Constitution? Do you know? You don't have it. Okay, we can find it. Okay, so one is what?
But one is, a person is a Ghanaian if his parent or grandparent is a Ghanaian. So that is by birth.
Parent or grandparent?
Parent or grandparent.
Okay, so my grandparents are Ghanaian. My parents are British.
Yeah.
I was born in London.
Yes.
I went to Adisa College. Am I Ghanaian?
You are Ghanaian.
Because my grandparents are Ghanaians.
Exactly. Even if one grandparent was a Ghanaian or is a Ghanaian, you are a Ghanaian.
Okay, so one grandparent is Ghanaian. My grandfather is Ghanaian.
Yes.
My grandmother was British.
Yes.
Okay, both of my parents are British.
If you have 1/4 blood, Ghanaian blood, you are
Ghanaian. Okay.
So birth, that's number one.
That's birth. Okay. However, it arranges itself.
That's right.
Parent or grandparent.
Parent.
One parent.
Parent or grandparent.
One parent, one grandparent qualifies.
Yes.
Okay, good. So I could be as yellow as Tony Blair, but my grandparents is Ghanaian. It's good enough.
That's right.
Okay.
And the second is citizenship by naturalization. So you apply to be a Ghanaian, haven't met a certain criteria. Maybe you've lived here, you become a permanent resident in this country, you like the country, you apply, you want to live here.
Is the criteria clear?
Yes.
Is it prescribed? So one, you live here. Two,
oh,
for
no,
how
no,
long?
I said, no. In
so
that
when
sense,
you apply to be a Ghanaian, in making that determination, are the authorities seized with clear, obvious criteria?
They are seized with, and internationally, what I know is that they want to know that you have a stake in the future of the country and in its present. They want to be sure that you are emotionally connected to the country. And so you must be able to demonstrate to the examining officer, I mean the immigration officer or the minister for the interior or whoever is making the determination, that you understand the society, you appreciate its culture, its history, all of that, and you are.
Let me just ask them to hold on to the photographs. We want Attafuah to address it, so we'll go to that. So let's stay with the studio. We'll pick up the ID card and we'll let him walk us through what we are seeing.
Okay. Yes. So that's one. You must meet a certain knowledgeability criteria that they will expect of you. In some countries, you write a test and then you go through an interview, and citizenship is conferred on you when they are satisfied that you've met it. In some countries, it is even by sale. You can, in some of the Caribbean countries, you can actually earn the citizenship of that country by investing a certain amount of money in that country. So
that's by application?
By application or naturalization.
Okay.
And then there is also citizenship by registration, and that is where a spouse of a Ghanaian, elects to become a Ghanaian and gets registered as such. And then the fourth is by adoption. So you can adopt, if a Ghanaian adopts a person who is not born a Ghanaian, that person can become a Ghanaian.
What age can you adopt a person? If I want to adopt, must the person be below 18?
Yes. The person must be a child.
If he's above 18, I cannot adopt him.
You cannot adopt an adult.
The laws of adoption don't permit that.
No.
That's interesting. So you can adopt a child.
You can adopt a child. And also
if your child, when I adopt a child whose parents are not Ghanaians, and can I adopt that child?
Yes.
Okay, so if I adopt a child whose parents are not Ghanaians, can the parents then apply to be Ghanaian?
No, they are not parents anymore. When you adopt that child, you become the parents of that child, not the biological parents, wherever they might be. They are not Ghanaians. If they want to become Ghanaians, they must go through the naturalization process.
So that their child has been adopted by a Ghanaian is of no moment to them?
No, it's of no moment, it's of no consequence to their potential application for Ghanaian citizenship.
Okay.
And I should also, while you're on the question of children, a child who is found of no parentage and wandering in Ghana can be made a Ghanaian by declaration of the courts. Social welfare people come in, they do an assessment, they make a presentation to the court that this person is of no parentage, and appropriate arrangements can be made for the safe custody and well-being of the child, and the child can be given Ghanaian citizenship by virtue of having been found wandering of no parentage.
On the naturalization question, does your NIA participate in the process at the point of an investigation towards registration? What I mean is, in Ashanti region, you find Fulani people, they are doing their grazing, and then they appear at the registration center and they say that we are not Ghanaians, but we want to apply because we have been farming here for 25 years. Is the NIA allowed to engage with such people and take them through the process of registration to qualify them to have the card?
No. Our mandate does not include determination. I mean, does not include conferral of citizenship. It doesn't include determining in that sense. I mean, assisting people to become Ghanaian. That's a function reserved for the Ghana Immigration Service.
So you will point them to the Ghana Immigration Service?
Yes, but I would find it strange that a person would admit that they are not Ghanaians, but they are interested in becoming Ghanaians, and then coming to National Identification Authority. You see, listen to the name, National Identification Authority, not national.
Maybe they are not aware that they can do all that with the immigration.
We will do the education.
Educate them and say, go to the immigration?
Yes, it's a novel situation you are raising with us, if it ever comes up. But my corporate affairs boss is here. It's a matter that we can take up. Add to our education as may be necessary and appropriate. But for now, our mandate is to identify persons who are Ghanaians, give that official confirmation or affirmation of that citizenship by registering them and then giving them that mark of identity, that mark of belonging, which is the Ghana card. We enroll them onto the National Identity Register, which is an electronic database. And then we manage or maintain that database by taking out those who pass away and including those who get born. That is the maintenance of the register. But we are also to register foreign nationals who live in Ghana continuously or cumulatively for 90 days or longer, and who are not diplomats. The law requires us to, for us to register them, or put more positively, the law requires them to apply for the Ghana card. So we enroll them as foreigners, and we have a project called the Foreigner Identification Management Systems, FIMS project, under which since 2012, foreigners living in Ghana are required to register. They are to register and pay a fee, now a fee of $120. By virtue of that, some people find it a disincentive to go into register because of the fee component and would want to take advantage of the Ghanaian registration for the Ghana card, which is free. When foreigners register, they get the Ghana card, but it has an inscription on it boldly in red, bold inscription that says
I have a copy of that.
Non-citizen.
I'll show you so we can look at it. But
Excellent.
Before we get there, what does a card of a foreigner give him if he's in Ghana? he's non-Ghanaian, he has a card that says non-Ghanaian, what does it give him?
All the rights and privileges that...
So he can access the national health insurance?
Oh, the national health insurance, by law, every person living in Ghana is actually required
to register. So that's different.
So if you have not registered, yes.
Access other things that are for Ghanaians?
Such as?
Free SHS?
No. Free SHS is for Ghanaians.
So what's the advantage of having the card? Why must I pay $120?
Well, you must pay $120 because you live in this country, you access its health services, you use the roads, you use all the other things, you must pay your taxes and all of that. Every country, every civilized democratic country in the world, take away democratic, every civilized country must have and does have a way of identifying its foreign nationals as well as its nationals, that is, its citizens. And every system of evaluative inclusion, Paul, is a system of evaluative exclusion. And you must give a mark of identity for those who are foreign nationals. And when the police stop you, they don't know whether you are a foreigner or a local. When they ask you for your identity card and you present your your Ghana card, which identifies you as British, you need not be carrying your passport around. You need not to, be having any other thing, because the Ghana card, which has non-citizen written on it, also contains your other identity systems or identity cards that you may have. For example, if someone from Yugoslavia registers for the Ghana card today, the non-citizen Ghana card, they will have to produce other ID cards, their passport and all of that, which would also be captured, images of which will be embedded on the chip that is also embedded on the card. It makes for easy identification. It enables them to access services, banking services and SIM card registration and all of that. And for those in our sub-region who are able to travel freely in and out, ECOWAS nationals, that becomes their passport to virtually everything else. And by the way, in the case of the Ghana card, there's a passport, an electronic passport on the card itself. So there are a lot of advantages that devolve on persons who are not Ghanaians who obtain the Ghana card, non-citizen Ghana card, not least of which is the mere fact that you are able to be easily identified, whether you have a passport of your foreign country or not. And a lot of people in the sub-region from other countries do not have passports.
When people appear to register, when candidates appear to register, what have you told the officials? Should they, on the balance of probability, believe what they are saying, or should they be critical of what they are saying? I'm guessing that this will happen a lot in the hinterland when people turn up to register. So when I'm an official of the NIA and you come, should I believe everything you are saying?
No.
Should I believe the testimony? Or should I query it?
Yes, you have to query it. First of all, given the criteria that I've set for, there are Ghanaians who, I should say, first of all, what are they? How do you prove that you are a Ghanaian? It is not just your say-so. So you must provide documentary evidence of your citizenship. One of them being the passport? One of them, first of all, being your birth certificate. Now,
of which many of us don't have in this
country. That is fine. So we have a solution for that. Many people don't have birth certificates. Many do. Those who do, some also have passports. Now, a birth certificate is a prerequisite for getting a passport in Ghana. So when a person has a passport, the presumption is that they also have a birth certificate. Now, supposing you have misplaced your birth certificate or can't easily lay hands on it, but you have your passport, you wanting to go and register, you go with your digital address, you go with your with your birth certificate, and you go with your passport, one of the two.
Okay, no, one. So
one of the passport one of the two. So passport is fine.
Okay.
Now, but if you have both, you are required to produce them, because there's something else we are doing in this registration exercise. We are not just registering and issue cards to Ghanaians. We're building a comprehensive database which will enable us to create data harmonization and integration of the national database with other data silos that exist. Data silos such as that of DVLA, SNIT, Passport, Births and Deaths Registry, NIA, and all of that. So we create a data exchange platform that will allow communication between these, so and also finished, allow for verification services.
80% of our NIA card holders are also in NIA, are also in the SNIT or the national health insurance.
Exactly.
And so you know that 20% of national health insurance beneficiaries are not on the Ghana card, and you can make that analysis.
Yes, we can
that's
do.
the point you're making.
Yes,
okay.
we can do.
So if the person shows with a passport only, it's accepted.
Acceptable.
Given that the processes to obtain a passport in Ghana, as we all know, realistically, is not as foolproof as the one that you are trying to establish.
Yes.
Your card has a bit more veracity than the Ghana passport. How do you treat that? Because Nigerians have been known to hold Ghanaian passport.
That is why the
West Africans have been known to hold Ghanaian passport. All over the world, they hold Ghanaian passport.
That's true.
And if that Ghanaian passport is being is legally tenderable to collect a Ghana card, whose processes seem like very stringent,
yes.
Are we not defeating the purpose?
No. That is why the question you asked initially is so important. Our officers are trained to query. Now, the presentation of your birth certificate or passport does not guarantee that you will automatically be considered to be eligible for registration. They are trained to interview you to determine whether or not you are a Ghanaian. Some people are not Ghanaians, as you've described, but they have certain identity documents which they will present, such as either of those two primary documents. And if upon interview or interrogation, it is determined that this person is not a Ghanaian, or that a document he's holding, even if he's a Ghanaian, that a document he or she is holding is fake, the person cannot rely on that document to register. And it is an offense to present a fake document or to make false representations to an office, a public officer.
I'm talking
in this
about
case,
a case
NIA.
where the document is not fake, the passport is correct.
Yes.
What would be the basis to question him? So the passport is correct, it shows it's a biometric passport. His name is Amadou Bello Kwekumenu.
Yes.
What do you do with that?
Yes. Amadou
What's the prima facie rule?
The rule is simply that you know the principle of regularity.
Yeah.
When an authority of the state does something, it is presumed to have been done in the proper manner, to have been done regularly. So when you are given a passport or a birth certificate, the presumption is that it is proper. Okay. But as you also said, we know that people acquire these things fraudulently. So when a person presents, if in the course of the interview, if the officer has reason to believe, so there is that threshold, you must cross that invisible, unwritten threshold of believability. If the person, given all the circumstances, has no reason to doubt the veracity of your claim or the documentary evidence that you've presented, the person lets you go through. In order to checkmate the possibility that somebody may not be a Ghanaian and yet may hold genuine Ghanaian documents properly or regularly issued by a statutory agency, the law has been amended to give any Ghanaian, or rather every Ghanaian, the right to challenge the eligibility claim of another person. And so if you show up at the registration center and you say you are Paul Adom-Otchere, but somebody has reason to believe that you have lived here for 40 years, and yet your parents immigrated, both of them, immigrated from wherever, and never naturalized, never became Ghanaians, but you were born in Ghana, you would not be considered a Ghanaian, because longevity does not confer citizenship. And the fact that you have lived here for 100 years doesn't make you a Ghanaian. And if your parents came from Niger or to...
Even when I have a Ghanaian passport?
Yes.
But that's going to increase quarrel.
No, it could. It could. But that is why...
violence.
Well, no, not violence, because the law has devised a very civilized, peaceful process for challenging eligibility. First, you would see that if a person believes that another person is not eligible, they inform an officer of the commission, of the authority. That officer will take some reasons from the person making the claim. And you must have reasonable basis for making the allegation that somebody is a fraud. When that NIA officer is seized with that information, they will draw the attention of the applicant who is challenged, politely invite them and inform them that there is an issue, and get them to write a statement by which they will seek to show why they are Ghanaians. That person is a Ghanaian. This information will go before a district registration review committee, which is also established by law, and it is chaired by the district magistrate in the affected region, district. It has the police commander on it. It has a representative from the district education office, a district social welfare office. It has a traditional ruler. It has an imam. It has a Christian leader. And it also has the Ghana Bar Association, a member of the Ghana Bar Association from that community on it. This committee, which I call the accredited knowers, the members are the people from the community who are positioned to assist in investigating your eligibility claim. They are the ones who will go into the community where you say you hail from and investigate the facticity of your claim. So who were your classmates? Which school did you attend? Who was your class 1 teacher or your class 7 teacher? Something that a member of any community, or some basic information that a member of any community ought to be able to provide genuinely without difficulty, which would be investigated, whether anthropologically or forensically, however, whatever it takes, they will do that. When they have concluded that you are a Ghanaian, your card is issued to you or activated, even if it had already been issued and you were challenged. If it is determined that you were not a Ghanaian, the card is not given to you. And of course, you have a right to appeal it all the way to the courts.
But you are registering across the country, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
So if you go to an immigrant community, and in West Africa, we do have immigrant communities all over. There's Lagos Town here, there's Ghana Must Go in Nigeria, there's Ghana Market in Cote d'Ivoire. So you have an immigrant town. You will not have too many of the onlookers coming to challenge their colleagues, contemporaries who are also immigrants about this matter. In that case, you are suggesting to us that they will go through?
I'm suggesting to us that Ghanaians must be willing to undergo the fatigue of helping us as a country, as a people, to establish the boundaries of our citizenship, to police those boundaries well, to keep out those who are not Ghanaians, and to allow those who are Ghanaians to be included. So it is a responsibility that devolves on us. This is a responsibility of a lifetime. We have an opportunity as Ghanaians to establish once and for all a national register of citizens, much as other countries have successfully done. We have an opportunity to do so, and it is a duty that is solemn, that devolves on all of us. That is why, Paul, the framers of the law have also established a rigorous process for vouching for those persons who do not have any of the identity documents that we discussed earlier. And so, for example, if I don't have any documents anywhere, whether Accra or in my village, then a relative of mine who has registered and been issued the Ghana
Is it
card,
only a relative? Is it
a
relative?
I'm coming.
Okay.
A relative, there are two ways to be vouched for. The first is that where you have a relative who has registered and been issued with the Ghana card, then that relative can vouch for you, that relative alone. But if you have no relatives where you are, then you need two members of the community who have registered and been issued with the Ghana card and who also fall in certain categories and who can attest to your Ghanaianness. And those persons are civil servants, public servants, and by civil servant or public servant, I'm talking about the driver or the cleaner all the way up to the chief director, or the CEO from the driver to the CEO of a public service. I'm talking about assemblyman, district
What
committee.
do these people have to say? These witnesses,
They take an oath.
that they are speaking the truth.
Yes, and a solemn oath, and it's two. Now, even in the EC registration system, there is an oath system. I mean, there is a vouching for system, except that is not on oath. But the NIA one, our legislature has deemed it necessary to elevate the standard so that Ghanaians see this as a solemn declaration. When you go and say that, I, Kweku Mensah, I vouch that this Amadou Bello Upuni is a Ghanaian, that you are putting the weight of your credibility and your knowledge of the person to the line in supporting that claim. You may know the person to be living in the community, but not necessarily as a Ghanaian. When you go to that step to say this person who is my community member is a Ghanaian, you have sworn an oath. And if it is found that you misrepresented, then the penalties spelled out by law are available to be applied to you.
Are you not required when you swear the oath to say anything particular, that I know his father is Ghanaian, I know his mother? You just say that I know he's a Ghanaian, that's it?
No, yeah. It's
and then
just
the oath is to be believed?
Yes, and it is sworn before a commissioner for oaths who has been properly trained and commissioned by the Judicial Service of Ghana. Yes.
Do you recognize, Professor Ateffuah, that you're going to have an anthropological and sociological challenge in a West African country with artificial borders and trying to extract its pure citizens?
Yeah, it's a distillation process that has been done elsewhere, and it's been successfully done. And I have
with the same historical context.
Well, we have similar antecedents. We have similar socio-political or conditions. I'm talking all the nations that surround us. They all have a cut and taste system of one kind or another, and they have been able to do that, and they've been successful in distilling Ghanaians from Ivorians or from their citizens, and it didn't create war. We are not against nationals of any other country. We are just obeying the laws of our country and insisting that only Ghanaians must get onto the Noah's Ark, and that those who are not wanted on the voyage are definitely persons who are entitled to remain in our country, to move around freely as the ECOWAS protocols enjoin, but must not get on this register as Ghanaians, because that will be getting onto it through falsehood. If they desire to become Ghanaians, there are avenues that we discussed earlier. If they are children, adoption is an option, but if they are adults, then naturalization or registration, or even the other one, persons who are from certain approved countries as an option. But please, this is a register for class 3 pupils. Those in class 4, those in class 2 and class 1 or class 5 are not welcome to find their names on this important register.
Does matter about grandparents also? Because we are a young nation. We are 62 or 63 years old. And the courts have held that all Gold Coasters on the turning up of independence became Ghanaians. This was the matter in which Flight Lieutenant Rawlins' citizenship was challenged, and the court held that all persons who were Gold Coasters at the turn of independence became Ghanaians. So that if my grandparents were Nigerians but in Gold Coast, they became Ghanaians, as it were. So tracing a 60-year-old nation's history of above 18-year-olds, almost everybody can find their grandfather in the Gold Coast, and therefore they will be Ghanaian.
Well, it is the onus is on the person who is ascertain, and that is why the framers of the law have provided a medium for you to persuade a public officer, i.e., a National Identification Authority Registration Officer, that you are a Ghanaian. However, your parent or grandparent became a Ghanaian, however you became a Ghanaian, that root is what you are to establish. It is the proof of that facticity.
If I show a photograph of my grandfather in 1945.
No, photograph is
with the
not,
UGCC.
Photograph is not.
Standing with Pa Willie and Dankwa. And that's my grandfather. Came from Nigeria. He was with the UGCC.
Yes.
And he's my grandfather. So in 1957, he became Ghanaian. Professor Ateffuah, I'm Ghanaian.
Very
challenge that?
Very impressive, impressionistic evidence.
Yes.
That's not a reliable empirical evidence of your Ghanaian citizenship. What the
my
courts,
grandfather is there. I can
your
show
grandfather
you. I
is
can
in the
connect
photograph.
Yeah, but I can show other things that show that he's my grandfather.
Your grandfather was a friend of J.B. Dankwa or Obechebe Lamte,
Yes.
Obechebe Lamte, whoever.
He washed Dankwa's car in Chebi.
Yes, they were friends.
Yes.
Or they had a business relationship. It doesn't prove citizenship. We are talking
No, once
citizenship.
independence came, all of them became Ghanaians.
Oh, okay. Once independence came, they became Ghanaians, but we take it for granted. Once the person was a Ghanaian, then the child is a Ghanaian.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, that for a nation that's 60 years old, you're talking of 18 years and above, you're going to find a lot of people who would be able to say that my grandparents were in the Gold Coast.
Who would be able to establish? They must establish.
Okay, establish is a difficult one.
Yes.
To say is easy, but to
yes.
establish is more complicated.
And that is why, where they cannot do that, but somebody else can assist with, say, the vouching for process.
The old man in the village says,
but
I know his grandfather, he was here.
But Paul, it's important, given this conversation, that you allow me to mention, even if I cannot exhaust, the list of institutions or persons who can vouch, so that people know.
Very important. Let's see the card, so you can walk us through the card. But I'd like, so you want to mention the list of people who can vouch. That's key.
Yes.
But somebody sends me a text. It says that my parents of Togolese descent have lived in Nima many years before the attainment of independence. Question: distinguish between a Gold Coaster and a Ghanaian in relation to citizenship. Now he gives you examples. Mohamed Polo, he played for Hearts of Oak. Ali Ibrahim, he played for Accra Great Olympics. They are all Togolese. How would you deal with it? I'll come back to that, because I want you to deal with that matter you are interested in before we get to all of these things. But let me just put the questions out so it goes at the back of your mind, Prof. Another one says, to help the discussion, a citizen is simply a member of a state. One can become a citizen by birth or application. A national is a member of a genealogical group internationally accepted as belonging to a country. Nationality is not only by blood or genealogical link. Nationality, says, is only by blood or genealogical link. One cannot apply. This is within the context, I think, of international relations. He says one cannot apply. NIA must simplify the position of their card in relation to citizens and nations. Citizens and nationals, he says, is the card for Ghanaian citizens or Ghanaian nationals. We'll come to that as well. This is a professor of international relations saying that. So, Prof, on the screen now is one of your cards. Can you tell our viewers which one is this?
This is the Ghana card.
The front of the Ghana card.
The front of the Ghana card.
Okay.
It's if it could be enlarged a bit, but you would see the it's at the top. It says ECOWAS identity card.
Yes.
And that is because it's been a source of worry for some people.
Yes.
That is because in 2015, December 2015, while President Mahama was president, Ghana signed on to the ECOWAS protocol, which allowed all ECOWAS member states to produce for their nationals ECOWAS identity cards. Now, Ghana had its law requiring the Ghana card to be produced and given to all Ghanaians. So that would mean 2 cards. Now, when the current government came to office, we decided to implement the ECOWAS protocol that had been signed by President Mahama, and at the same time implement this Ghana card project. The decision was made to fuse the 2 cards so that Ghanaians will have to carry only 1 card, thereby also saving us a lot of money. The cost of, so we negotiated with ECOWAS and they agreed that the Ghana card meets the ECOWAS specifications. We changed the geography of the flag, the location of it from the left to the right and that sort of thing, and that was it. Now, so on the front, you have a chip on the left.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's a 148 kilobyte chip. This chip has 14 applets. It's the largest chip you can find. Your Visa card has two kilobyte chip. The driver's license and all these other identity cards have about 2 or 4, as the case may be. 148, 20 of it is taken by the processing system. The rest is available for use. And there are 14 applets on it, which can be rented by other, we call them user agencies, such as SNIT or DVLA or National Health Insurance or any of these, GRA, Passport Office, and the rest of them. We, in our case, I like to explain the applets as like living in your mansion and having 14 apartments within your mansion, which you can rent out. And so National Health Insurance, for example, can rent an applet on our system, and
so that I don't need to go and collect a card from National Health Insurance.
So
if I have a Ghana card, I present it to them, they will do something to it, and I'm okay.
That's it. And in fact, National Health Insurance is no longer going to going to produce ID cards. On the other hand, they are going to rather piggyback on the Ghana card And that alone is some significant saving of about $30 million every year for the 15-year life cycle of this project. So that's the chip. And it has a passport. It has an electronic passport on it. Electronic passport for travel within West Africa. So where any West African country has electronic gates, you can literally travel with this without need to carry a paper passport.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I said earlier that the cards that you are required to present together with your birth certificate or passport, we take photographs of those ID cards, and then we return the originals to you. The electronic copy is kept on that chip. So if you were driving around and you didn't carry, you were not carrying your driver's license, and the police stopped you and you produce your Ghana card, they could swipe the card on a handheld reader or device, and a picture of your driver's license will pop up. So they can be certain that you are a person properly qualified to operate.
That's quite sophisticated.
It is, and I can tell you, Paul, we did a presentation of this card at a government biometric ID conference in Alexandria 2 years ago. My colleague Joseph Iroko, the lawyer for NIA, did a presentation. The FBI boss at the conference remarked that this is far superior to anything they have in the United States. We had the Danish equivalent of NIA come visit us wanting to see how they could help us. They came with a long checklist. Do you have this? Check, and that, check, and that, check. It went all the way down. We had exceeded everything that they had, coming to us. And they remarked, wow, this is most impressive. This is a very superior card. It's a card that is prepared today for the future, whilst it's maintaining its relevance for today. It's a progressive thing. It is not some ordinary paper, laminated paper being given to people. It is superior, and the advantages are immense. So when people also begin to compare this with other cards, and I can do this for 50 million and this, all kinds of...
We'll come to the budget. That's been a source of criticism. Let's look at the other card.
And at the back.
Yeah. Okay, let's look at the back so that he can explain something.
Yeah, one of the things I should say quickly on the front is that
Back to the front then, whilst he's still on it.
Yes, every person who gets this card, every Ghanaian, gets a unique identification number, which will follow you for the rest of your life. And Paul, this card is also going to be given to every child from age 0 to infinity. And so when you're born, you are given a unique ID number. You have your biometrics, and this card
you mean you're going to be registering children below 18?
Children.
When?
As soon as this phase...
this one is over, you're going to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you capture everyone?
We'll go to hospitals, we'll go to maternity wards, strip compounds, we'll register every Ghanaian. You get a unique identification number, or identity number, and then on the chip, you have your 10 fingerprints captured, first level of biometrics. We also have your AFIS, or your face, your face.
So when you finish,
and then
your
your iris.
Need a population census. We shouldn't need it.
Our purpose is different from a population census. Population census goes into other details.
Like housing and all that.
Yes, the housing and all of that. We take your address, but not necessarily...
But in terms of the number of Ghanaians in Ghana...
Oh, that will be known easily.
When I travel, how will the system know? Is it all part of... Is it going to be built into that?
It is.
So that if I'm not in the country, if a card holder is not in the country, a registered Ghanaian citizen or national who holds a card is not in the country, will the system know that he's not in the country?
No, because it is not a passport for international travel in that sense. But if you use this passport, this card, which has an EID passport on it, if you use it to go to Togo,
then you know
then it will be known that you are in Togo. But not if you go to the United States with your paper passport. But if you are in the United States and they ask you for ID card and you produce this, they swipe it and all your details will come. Our friend Asankoma lawyer Asankoma tells me of a story of how the police stopped him. He gave the Ghana card, and this is even the old Ghana card. And they swipe it, and the details pop up. My Pastor Otabil told me a similar story, and that's even with the old Ghana card, without these amazing functionalities that the current card has. And yet all of those come up, and the police in Ace's case was talking about how much they admired the Ghana card. This is a sophisticated card that will has a lot of functionalities.
So
and
have
that
you
will
collected
aid us.
the old cards from them, and are you giving them
When,
new
when
ones?
you are given a new card, the old card is automatically deactivated. It's of no value or use.
Okay, let's look at the back then.
The back of this card also has, you see the coat of arms, and you see the ECOWAS emblem in the middle, and you see the passport symbol at the top right-hand corner. And I should also say that when you hold the card on the front, you can feel a circle like a coin. And that circle like a coin is, we call it tactile feature, which allows the blind to tell the Ghana card apart from other cards.
I see.
So, yeah.
Somebody wants me to ask you whether it has an expiry date.
Yes, it has an expiry date. The card body itself is valid for 10 years.
And after that?
And after that, you renew. Now,
With the same fiscal card?
when you present the card, or present yourself for the renewal of your Ghana card, you get a new one at a fee, by the way, and the old one is deactivated.
If I don't present it,
If you don't present the Ghana
the
card,
expired one.
you don't have the Ghana card.
So if a person carrying it dies, how would you know?
Oh, that is, thank you very much. We have on our board the registrar of the births and deaths registry, the CEO of the births and deaths registry, and it is not for nothing. There is expected that NIA will have dynamic relationship with DVLA, I said DVLA, sorry, births and deaths registry, births and deaths registry, and Social Security and National Insurance Trust, and GRA. There is that interconnection. And by the way, I should say that if you're going to register, take your SNET card with you, take your GRA and your TIN number. If you have these things, you are required to take them. But to get back to the question, when a person dies, it is the obligation of the members of that family, the deceased, to report his or her death. When they report that to the to the births and deaths registry, because we're going to have this data exchange platform, because we're going to have this dynamic conversation between systems, they will let us in on who is out, and who is in. We will be, that's part of the maintenance of the database that I was talking, the register that I was talking about. There is also a technology that we haven't deployed yet, but that is possible to, that will enable a person, when a person is deceased, and you put their fingerprint on a reader, that it will automatically indicate that this person is deceased.
The deceased person's fingerprint?
Yeah. So
where would you get it from?
Oh, at hospitals, at mortuaries, just to assist in cleaning up the register.
So that means the person must have the card with him when he dies or something like that?
No, for example, and this is a bit futuristic because we don't have it here, but what I mean is, if at a mortuary, they have a handheld device like this, and they are proper persons authorized, the application of the deceased person's finger on that reader will communicate to NIA or to the system that this person is deceased.
With his number and everything?
With everything.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because your data is captured on the system.
I see. Okay, let's look at the foreign card. The other one. Okay, so this one. Yes. Republic of Ghana and its non-citizen identity card.
Yes. Pretty much the same as the Ghana card. Indeed, this particular one is even old. There is a newer one, which is very much like the Ghana card that you showed a moment ago.
Yeah.
With all of these. Oh, okay, that is it. This is
a new one.
This is the new one, yes.
I could see that the chip.
There is a new one. So very much like the Ghana card, except the non-citizen identity card at the top there. And as you can see, it's red and it's bold, and it should cause no confusion at all.
Why do you use for the sample a Chinese-looking woman?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's...
Okay. Let's take a break. When we come back,
I don't think it's deliberate.
We will educate you on the NIA Act, which is very clear on citizens born in the Gold Coast. We'll educate you on that. And Professor Ateffuah wants to talk about the kind of people who can vouch for other people. We'll let him talk about that. It's 10:20 right now. We'll ask him a few more questions about the budget as well. That's a question that many people want to ask. And then we'll call it a day. I hope you're enjoying the program, and maybe open the phone lines, maybe not, but we'll be right back after the break.
Living among your peers in a serene gated community with tarred roads, drains, electricity, piped water supply and 24-hour security can be so relieving. That is the experience you will enjoy when you reserve the Castle Residency plots located near Prampram Beach and Katamanso near Adenta Barrier. Just pay up to 60% deposit and start construction to start enjoying Prampram Beach and Airport City life. You can start with any deposit. We give you a whopping 10% discount if you make an outright payment. The Castle Residency plots are managed by Castlegate Estate Ghana Limited. Locate our offices at Katamanso Estate site off the Adenta Barrier Dodua Road or Prampram Beach Road next to Oasis International School, or contact us on 0545 559928, our website on www.castlegateestate.com.gh or email us at info@castlegateestate.com.gh. The Castle Residency plots. We make home ownership easier.
From September 1st, Ghana is going 100% paperless at the ports.
No, we are here for all of us our interest, not for any individual interest.
As for paperless, no dear. But we need more education.
Any situation which throws light is a good situation. Iron Port is a perfect intervention.
Iron Port is also adding to the growth of the countries going forward in development.
Iron Port has come to upgrade and promote the industry.
This is Iron Port, now interactive, showing live on Metro TV every Sunday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Iron Port, transparency in doing business and building nation. Proudly brought to you by
Here in Ghana, a lot happens overnight. You wake up with new questions every day.
What kind of temperature do you expect today?
How bad is the traffic today?
Does the city look like stabilizing any moment from now, while prices of commodities are still high on the market?
We start our day early, so you can have all the information you need all day long.
Jackie, Ken, and AJ have all the info you need.
GMG Plus, 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. every weekday.
Definitions. So if I want to challenge your citizenship. Sorry, we are back. You have to leave, Mr. Pandit. You have to leave. Prof, which one would you like to do first? And viewers, we are getting more. Prof. Ateffuah's team is here, so they are giving us a lot of intellectual support. So there are a few things we need to clarify. Would you do the citizenship first or the other one you wanted to do? That's also very important.
For me,
so let's hear you on that one. Those people, the list of people who are qualified to say on oath that this other person should be registered.
Okay, if it is not a relative, then you need two people who must fall into one or several of these categories.
Yeah.
So professionals such as lawyers, doctors, pharmacists, architects, nurses, teachers, all those professional bodies that are all those professions that are regulated by a professional body.
So the GJA?
The journalist, that's a profession. So the list is not exhaustive, but it is indicative. We're talking such organizations or members of such organizations. So that's one. Then members of parliament, current or former, district assembly or municipal assembly members, current or former. Then
members of a political party.
No.
Why?
No. That's not what the law provides, and that's not what the governing board under law has determined. The list
executive of a political party.
No, but
Wow.
but a member, a person who is a civil servant, retired or servant, public servant, retired or servant, district assembly member, unit committee member, and a traditional authority, a chief who is gazetted, a gazetted chief, a clergyman, an imam. These are
gazetted chief, clergyman.
Yes.
Clergyman like who?
These days, clergyman
these
like
days,
Orthodox.
When you say clergyman, what do you mean? The one who is full of the spirit?
Well, the law says clergyman.
That's who? The prophet?
I don't know that the prophet who?
Prophet Obinim,
okay.
Prophet Obofuo,
Prophet
and all that. You
Prophet
won't take their testimony.
Nah, well, the law says a clergyman.
Clergyman, okay.
Okay, I will leave it like that. Okay. The law says a clergyman, and then a catechist, serving or retired. So I just wanted to say
broad.
these to make. Thank you very much. It's broad. The point is that
you didn't say traditional ruler.
A traditional ruler who is gazetted, a gazetted chief.
Okay.
And
traditional ruler who is gazetted, who does it include? You see, because the traditional ruler is Ohene, the Ochiame, Odikro, the Pejahene.
No.
If you take the two force entourage,
or
you take the Ochihene's entourage.
We're talking those who are gazetted.
If
you are a gazetted chief,
if
you are a gazetted chief, ask him.
Okay.
The person who is, you see, the oath is being sworn by the person who is vouching for you. That person must know whether she or he
is qualified or not.
And
the NIA official can address that.
Yes.
The official on the ground can address that.
The commissioner for oath, trained by the judicial service, who is a graduate, who's been trained and properly commissioned by the judicial service, has been sent to the registration center to do this job.
If a person doesn't fall in any of these categories, but he's known to be an elder in the village, how does it work?
Well, it doesn't work.
The philanthropist,
there is no how.
The philanthropist of the village
it doesn't.
in Sekou Krantumi, and they call him Pa America. Yes. And everyone knows him, and he's the guy who's a big philanthropist, and he knows everyone, and everyone knows him. And your officials show up in Kukrentume, this is not in Accra, and the whole Kukrentume is really worshipping Pa America. And he turns up and says, oh, I know this guy. Would he be disqualified?
Yes, he would be if all of that is that he's Pa America, he's a good man, he's a philanthropist and all of that. It makes very good sociology, but it is not good law. We are looking at what the law says. The law has defined who is a Ghanaian, who is qualified to be a Ghanaian, to be registered onto the national register. And a person, no matter how long they have lived in this country, no matter their acts of goodness, if they have not gone through the fatigue of becoming a citizen by naturalization in this case, they are not a Ghanaian.
A former parliamentary candidate.
A former parliamentary candidate is not recognized in the law as eligible to...
Former parliamentary candidate who didn't win, that's what I mean, to clarify.
Yeah,
former parliamentary candidate who did not win.
Yeah, if the person was a parliamentarian, the law says parliamentarian or member of parliament, he or she aspired but did not become. The law is looking at those who were, not those who
former
wanted
presidential candidate.
They are not mentioned in the law as qualified by virtue of their former status as presidential candidates or aspirants. The most important thing is that you must have been a public officer. That aspirant was not a public officer, having not been elected or not having been elected. That person is not qualified.
Former board chairman of VRA.
Is that a public officer?
Of sorts, yes.
No. What is the of sorts?
Well, it's appointed by the president as a non-executive chairman of the Volta River Authority, a very important person in our whole energy dispensation.
In my view, that is a person who is qualified because the person is a public officer. I have held the view that when it comes to assets declaration, for example, all those persons who are serving as members of board of this or that, all those people who are paid from the consolidated fund in one way or another in this contest, they are all public officers for the purposes. I may be wrong, but in my view, they are public officers, sort of and they should and they qualify.
Okay. That said, can we look at the qualification criteria within the context of the Gold Coast thing in your act, so that we can clarify to people? Because my concern is that being a young nation, you could have quite a few people making claim to this Gold Coast. My grandparents were in the Gold Coast. What's the actual qualification?
Well, what the law says is Section 3 of Act 590 of 2000, the Citizenship Act. What it says in Section 3 is persons born before 6 March 1957. And it says, quote, 1, a person born before 6 March 1957 is a citizen of Ghana by birth if A, he was born in Ghana and at least one of his parents or grandparents was born in Ghana.
Born in Ghana before 1957?
Yes.
Okay.
A person born before 6 March 1957 is a citizen of Ghana by birth if he was born in Ghana and at least one of his parents or grandparents was born in Ghana.
Okay. So or that person, his grandchild, qualifies to say my grandparents.
Once you are a Ghanaian, then your grandchild qualifies.
Once we were born in Ghana before
Once you were born in Ghana before 1957 and at least one of your parents or one of your grandparents
was also
born in Ghana. That's the first. Second, or he was born outside Ghana and one of his parents was born in Ghana. So when you descend to being born outside Ghana, then grandparents don't come in.
It has to be parents.
It has to be parents. One of your parents must have been born in Ghana if you were born outside Ghana. So the Abedi-Pele story, that's Abedi-Pele.
Mohamed Polo,
Mohamed Polo.
Yeah.
The Mohamed Polo scenario.
His parents may not have been born in Ghana.
If his parents were not born in Ghana, it does not matter that
he was born in Ghana. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
He's not Ghanaian.
No.
Played for the Black Stars.
It doesn't matter.
Did we feel an unqualified player?
The mistakes.
So born in Ghana by itself is not good enough.
No, a person born in Ghana is not a Ghanaian automatically.
But born in America is an American.
No, that's American law. We're talking Ghanaian law.
Ghana
born
law in Britain used to be British.
Well,
not anymore. Yeah.
You say used to be. Ghana law doesn't mimic American law.
So born in Ghana is not good enough?
No, it's not good enough. It's not good enough.
Your parents must be born in Ghana?
No. If you are talking 1957.
No, I'm talking now, born in Ghana.
If you are today,
yes,
the law is simple in that sense. If you are born in Ghana of foreign parentage, you are not a Ghanaian.
Hey.
Yes. Yes, Paul. If you are born in Ghana,
so
of
Abdul Fattah,
of Venezuelan
the
parentage.
rich Lebanese guy on Spintex Road, Abdul Fattah,
yes,
who sold cars to members of parliament and ministers. He's been around for 20 years. Yes. He's born in Lebanon.
Yes.
His son is born at the 37 military hospital.
Yes.
He goes to school at Morning Star.
Forget about his child for now. Was his parents Ghanaian? That's all.
Parents are Lebanese.
Yes,
but
so
they were in Ghana long ago.
No. Did her parents?
His father used to sew suits for Kwame Nkrumah.
That's fine. Did his parents naturalize?
The guy was sewing suits for Kwame Nkrumah.
Doesn't matter. Interesting sociology.
Nkrumah used to go to their house.
Makes interesting tidbits.
He's not Ghanaian.
The biography will sell. It will sell fast like hotcake, but it doesn't establish citizenship.
It's controversial.
It isn't controversial, Paul. Don't generate controversy. You are just making an interesting story. This person has lived in Ghana.
But he can apply, can he, through the second process?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Then it's not too bad.
That is why I said that we must go through the fatigue of protecting the boundaries of our citizenship. And those of us who are Ghanaians already must also undergo that same process of policing the boundaries. It is
so important. Such a person, if he applies, most likely he'll get it.
I believe so, but I'll leave it to
immigration
authorities.
So that we need to sort of sound out that criteria as well. That if you have the beautiful sociology, what you do is to go and apply for it.
Paul, it is not a mandate of the National Identification Authority to engage in public advocacy on behalf of would-be Ghanaians. Our interest is to register extant Ghanaians, Ghanaians as they exist today, not Ghanaians as they are, not persons as would like to become Ghanaians. When you do, next week, next year, NIA is going to be a perpetual institution. It's going to exist in perpetuity. We're going to establish regional, district, municipal officers. So persons who don't get the opportunity to register during this mass registration phase will have the opportunity to walk to a registration center near them at their own leisure and register. If by that time a would-be Ghanaian has in fact become a Ghanaian, praise the Lord, they go to NIA, we will register them.
Okay, so there's no deadline for registration. It's an ongoing exercise.
At all.
So people shouldn't panic.
At all, at all. And thank you very much for this opportunity. This is a mass registration exercise. We want the masses of Ghanaians to register indeed, so that in one fell swoop, we can populate the register in order that we can begin to get all the benefits. As many Ghanaians as possible must register. Our target is 85%. If we get 80% of Ghanaians aged 15 and above, 15 and above, registering during the mass registration exercise, we are a success, a resounding success. After that, say from April of next year, we plan to register Ghanaians under 15 and issue them not with the Ghana card that you had shown, but with a 2D barcode card. That card is pretty much like the driver's license that most people have. So that card will have different kinds of functionalities, but by all means, everyone will be registered. And Paul, the law also obliges us to register Ghanaians living in the diaspora. Ghanaians everywhere will also have to be registered.
So you will go to them or they'll come to you?
We'll go to them.
Okay.
Those who come here are at liberty to register, but the law requires that we register Ghanaians abroad. So we'll go to them. We rely on the Ghana missions abroad, working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration and the Diasporan Relations Office, the Office of the President, or wherever, Ghanaian associations abroad, work with them to create awareness and to engender support and let people go and register. I should add that under the law, we Ghanaians in Ghana get a Ghana card for free. When you lose it, you pay a fee to get a replacement. When a card expires in 10 years and you go for a replacement, you pay a fee. When you register as a Ghanaian living in the diaspora, those in the West African sub-region will pay a fee lower than those in the rest of Africa, who will pay a fee lower than those living in the Euro-American countries, Canada, US, Britain, Germany, Australia, and the rest of them.
If during registering the president, for instance, I had challenged his citizenship, would you ignore me on the basis that the Electoral Commission had passed him to be a presidential candidate of a political party and therefore he's a valid Ghanaian?
I would not need to go there. If we interview the president and we concluded that he was not a Ghanaian, first it would be most extraordinary, but we would make that declaration and then it will be up to him to establish the contrary.
Can he say that, given that the Electoral Commission had passed him as a presidential candidate, of which being Ghanaian was a key criteria, that is okay?
Our law doesn't make reference to the Electoral Commission law. Our law makes reference to the courts, that where we determine that a person is not a Ghanaian and they believe otherwise, they have the right to challenge our decision all the way to the Supreme Court.
I'm asking actually for somebody, say a member of parliament or a former member of parliament in immigrant community, and somebody says that this guy is not Ghanaian.
Paul, that's the answer. The answer is that there is a challenge process. That challenge process is what the law has provided as the medium or the mechanism for resolving registration-related disputes. And it goes through the court. And that is why
there's no discrimination.
And that is why the composition of the Registration Review Committee is so important. If you recall, I said that it is chaired by the district magistrate or circuit court judge. It has a member of the Ghana Bar Association on it. And then it has the police commander for the district and an education officer, social welfare officer, chief, clergy, all those accredited knowers. They are not there for nothing. They are there to do a serious judicial determination of your claim to eligibility or citizenship. Once that is made, your card is given to you, or your card is deactivated if you had it, and you have recourse to the appellate processes that are available under law.
I see. That's
interesting. We're not looking at
final question. I think we've overrun, but the final question: are you, when registering, do you ask people the constituency they belong to?
No, I have the form here. I don't think that constituency.
Okay. I'm asking because what is the relationship between the Ghana card and eligibility to vote?
There is no relationship. There is a provision.
That will be determined by the Electoral Commission?
I'm sorry?
Eligibility to vote will be determined solely by the Electoral Commission?
Paul, this is not an electoral process. This is not related to election. This is citizen identification. We ask questions that enable us to establish your Ghanaianness. We ask you certain questions that also enable us to get information about who Ghanaians are. We can go through some of those questions. Your parentage, your educational background, your social side, your sociology, you know, and the kind of work you do and all of that sort of thing. We ask about your marital status. We ask about the last educational attainment, if any, and the rest of them. We find out if you are a person with a disability, and if so, what type of disability, and we have codes for all of these. We ask about the languages you speak, we ask about the place you were born, and all those kinds of things, and you know, if any religious denomination and that sort of thing. Your parentage, very crucial, because it goes to the heart of citizenship.
So people shouldn't be worried that this is going to be applied as voting?
There are all kinds of fanciful ideas out there. They may have legitimate basis in wishes, and some of them may come to pass in future. But we are creatures of statute. We live by the law. We abide by the law. The law has no reference to any other purpose that is not stated here. In fairness, the law also says that the Ghana card shall be used for social, economic, and political purposes. That phraseology enables one to conceptualize a situation or an occasion where the Ghana card may be deemed worthy of use as a means of establishing eligibility, or even if the EC law were to permit, to say, oh, we could even, you show up at a registration center, and if we swipe and you are 18, then you can register to vote. But that is not part of NIA's mandate. That is not in NIA's contemplation. We are not engaged in that enterprise. We are solely in the business of registering Ghanaians as Ghanaians and issuing them with the Ghana card and creating a reliable, dependable, robust national identity register, which we shall maintain to keep it pristine, and providing data exchange platforms, verification platforms to boost businesses, to ensure formalization of the economy, and to ensure that there is social, economic, and political inclusion.
How much is it costing us?
The card is costing us...
The project.
Okay. The project is costing all of us Ghanaians a total of 100... it's costing us... Okay. In the first year of this project, it's going to cost Ghana government 124 million.
Of US dollars?
US dollars. This is being pursued through a public partnership arrangement. So there's a contract with Identity Management Systems Limited, the private partner of NIA. That is the company providing the technology, the technical system on a build, design, and operate basis, whilst NIA bears responsibility for the registration. Now, that private partner is bringing $169 million in the first year.
He has his own money like that?
Well, through equity, through loans.
He's
through,
raising his money.
Yes,
Okay.
you know. So the private partner's share is 169. NIA's share is 124 million. Over the, and this is a 15-year project.
Okay.
Over the life cycle of the project, it is estimated, and this is where the confusion has come in, it is estimated that the revenues that will come in, there's a revenue model underpinning this.
That is from the foreign card registration, or from those of us who lose it, or after 10 years when you are
from
re-registering?
Okay. And for the verification service at the banks and telcos and all of that.
All right, okay.
Okay, so revenue would come in. Now, over the 15 years of operating this project, issuing cards by that time to over 40 million Ghanaians, right? That's estimate. Doing all of this over the 15-year period, including every ounce of fuel that we put in any NIA vehicle, operating regional and district offices, and all that will happen, replacing lost cars, the total amount of money that is estimated to be spent over the 15 is what is 1.2 billion.
It is not
US dollars. It is not money that is given to NIA. It is not money that Ghana government has pledged to provide. It's like, by analogy, it's like you and your wife saying that a couple. So we have a child and let's budget. If we take care of this child for the next 15 years, all the lacto, Cerelac and that Pampers and all the things that we will, and school fees and everything we'll spend on this child will amount to 50,000 Ghana cedis. Okay, that is an estimate. It is not money you have. It is not money you have pledged to give, but it is sound business thinking to plan ahead and to do that cost estimation.
So the 1.2 billion is only a function of the planning.
It's a planning,
okay.
Yes, and the money that will actually be spent, if it is spent, will come from the project itself. The project will be self-financing
we'll start generating
beyond
money.
the 1 year. And so that is it. It is not, so all those talk out there about it's going to cost 1.2 billion, it is either misinformation or deliberate, it's either deliberate misinformation or it is, with the greatest of respect, just the perpetration of colossal ignorance. There is no foundation to it. And ignorance.
Ignorance that's colossal.
Yes, ignorance that is colossal. And some people love to, push this agenda. It is unfair. It undermines public confidence in the project. It gives people the impression that some ridiculous amount, some humongous amount of money is being spent on the project. But you can compare. And people like to compare with the Aadhaar, the Indian thing, that India has a population of 1.2 billion and they issued a card for less than 50 million. Well, it's a ridiculous analogy. If you compare a little mouse with an elephant, they are both mammals for sure. They both have tails, but they are different, entirely different
But
creatures.
surely if the population is more, the money should be more.
No. The population, India doesn't produce this kind of Ghana card.
The quality.
Not even the quality. They don't produce cards.
What do they produce?
They produce ID, unique ID number that they give to every citizen.
That's all.
That's all. And you can write it on a piece of paper. You can write it on a card, yes, but it is not. You can write it on your business card, but it is not a smart biometric ID card with 148 chip capacity with 14 applets. It's not an EID, it's a passport. It doesn't have a passport embedded on it. It doesn't have any of the functionalities.
The Indian one.
The Indian one. It is a number, and we have that number on the Ghana card. It is a ridiculous comparison. It issues from the minds of persons who have not sufficiently educated themselves about identification systems and compared the substance of what it is that we are talking about. One is an elephant, and pardon the analogy, but let's say that one is a tiger and the other is a little cricket. They are both animals, but for goodness sake, they are not comparable creatures at all.
I see. What's your last word on this program?
My last word on this project, Paul, thank you very much, is that every Ghanaian is entitled to be registered, and NIA will do everything to make it possible for every Ghanaian to get on board. Every foreigner is by law to be excluded, and every Ghanaian should make it his or her duty to assist us in keeping out of the Noah's Ark those persons who are not wanted on the voyage because they are not Ghanaians. And in the process, we must be disciplined. We NIA personnel must be disciplined. My people have been trained, the staff have been trained on patriotism, on the values of customer service in the proper sense of the word. And yet we are seeing embarrassing stories or episodes or events out there. Ghanaians going to register must also be patient and be willing to undergo a little fatigue. I know what is happening there is significant, unbearable fatigue. People are suffering out there. We're doing everything within our power to reduce the technical challenges as we aim at operational excellence. And we will register every Ghanaian. We will establish officers. This is an activity in perpetuity. And I'm asking that we support it to succeed. The benefits are humongous. This is a transformative agenda. It's a game shaper and a game changer. Ghana will never be the same by this time next year when the majority of Ghanaians in the adult population have registered and been issued a Ghana card. Maximum 2 years, this country will look very different in terms of the identity management and the space that has been occupied by all kinds of dubious ID cards that create problems for all of us. We're going to sanitize the system, and let's also sanitize our language as we proceed with the agenda.
Excellent. How is Pam Detty, the director of PR?
Fantastic.
When we come Commonwealth Hall, he was a long distance runner.
And he was a vandal too.
But we could not rely on him on the track. Maybe you can rely on him at the NIA. He was a long distance runner that we couldn't rely on.
Oh, he's proven reliable so far.
Okay, so he's
and
changed.
I'm sure he's going to be
Thank you,
for the long haul.
Excellent.
Always great.
And thank you, viewers, for watching and enduring us even after we ran out. Thanks for watching. Good night.